What are they gonna see? Why is it not okay? Notifications may include. Okay, I understand. What's happening? This is why, unlike the great Allen Iverson, you've got to practice.
But we
Let's.
did. We did.
Okay, it's.
So, everyone, welcome to the first ever podcast of the BNT Sports Talk. My name is Brian,
I'm Taj.
and we're just two regular dudes who have been talking sports for the last 10 years, and now we're just wanted to share it with all of you guys here. So, this is a very uncut show. Your comments right about now. So, with that being said, we are going to open up the floor to the Lakers, Taj Mahal's team, who are getting ready to call it a season. And I think LeBron is halfway there by saying that his ankle was hurting all of a sudden.
Ankle foot
So,
something.
Taj Mahal,
Yeah,
you can dive into this a little more since you are following him closer than anyone.
yeah,
Please
absolutely.
insight us on this season here.
Let's talk about the great implosion. Yeah, it was not fun to watch as a Laker fan, and I think most people around the league were probably laughing at us pretty regularly because we were pretty regularly getting whooped. And they did more of that today, and then they lost to the Pelicans as well. Really, a lot of this stems from decision making with the upper management this offseason and the move to, instead of go with Buddy Hield, they turned gears and went with Russell Westbrook. Now, I don't know whose great idea that was, but it really just doesn't make sense. LeBron James is a ball heavy guard, and it doesn't make sense. But it's been an atrocious season all year. And, I'm going to ask you, B, from your point of view, because I've watched, I want to say, almost 60 to 75% of the games. As a Warriors fan, what do you think?
It's the greatest feeling in the world. By far the greatest feeling in the world.
Man.
Now, watching them play, and look, Russell Westbrook, he wasn't the Russell Westbrook that everyone was accustomed to. And I think him not being able to be that person and making the transition to a different kind of style of point guard really just altered his game completely here.
Yeah.
I think we've talked about this before. The players that the Lakers used to have that they don't have anymore.
Yeah.
Your
KCP,
Kuzma,
Caruso.
your KCP.
Yeah.
And I'm even going to throw in Ball. Lonzo Ball would have been an absolute perfect fit, LeBron.
Yeah, but we had to get your boy. We had to get AD, and I kind of know why we. I'm cool. I'm okay with that part. Draft picks we gave up. He wasn't a very impactful player this season, and I don't want to blame Russell Westbrook. I still think he's a Hall of Fame player. The problem is he's used to playing on a team where he has the ball in his hand all the time. He's used to playing with a big he can play off of and help him by going through pick and rolls and creating open shots before on a team. And you're hoping just because he's a good, talented player that it will work. I think it's fool's gold. And to rub it in, Vogel is a defensive coach that relies on defensive perimeter players and a good defensive center. And he had AD for we didn't have AD for most of the season. And most of the guys that were on the court could not keep people in front of them. That includes Russell Westbrook. LeBron plays defense when he wants to. AD was disinterested the first 25 games of the season. He didn't look like he was really in it. And I think a lot of that had to do with the Lakers being like, hey, man, you got to play center. And he was just kind of like, yeah, I'll do it. And then he was like, nah, I don't really want to do it. And so his rebounds went down. His effort went down. I think in order for him to be good, I think he's a guy, he has to have a center. He has to play at the forward position. I know a lot of people give him slack for that because we're in a new era in the NBA, but we've talked about this before. It's okay, but AD was never going to do it all season. He's not going to bang with centers all season. I think a combination of all those things led to them being a very, very mediocre team. Howard, yeah.
He's not going to be those years. Yeah. His Magic days are long gone. Now, granted, he did get himself a title during the pandemic. Got our first comment. The Lonzo Ball era is over. It's over, but I think Lonzo Ball in this offense to help LeBron would have been it would have.
Point guards. We'll still focus on point guards, not guards, because most guards he's played beside have either been extremely great ones like Kyrie Irving and Dwayne Wade, or they've been extremely mediocre like Mario Chalmers, in which they're being asked to only do one or two things: catch the ball and shoot, make a pass now and again. LeBron is a ball dominant guy. Okay, so you're not gonna. The only way this works is if you put a guy next to him who can handle the ball and be a scorer. That's it. He can play next to a 2 that can score. And that guy's got to be good. He cannot play next to a point where he'll pull out his bag of tools and start working and getting his own shot. But he's okay with deferring to a guy that can put up buckets. He's not okay with deferring to someone like Russell Westbrook who cannot shoot or space the floor. They tried, but whenever you pass it to Russell can't knock down the 3, and at that point the defense is our offense has become extremely stagnant because the defense understands that this guy can't shoot, so I don't need to guard him. I can just stand in the paint and make sure LeBron doesn't get in the paint. I can just stand and double team. We're simply lining it up, and through a majority of the season playing a lot of one-on-one basketball. Now we have moments, but we never had a consistent offense that meant or that is he's not, he's having some injury problems right now, but at the time I think most teams would have made that trade. Brandon Ingram is the one that is the most talented of that bunch. Not Lonzo Ball, and that might be tough to say because Lonzo Ball's playing on a playoff team with the Chicago Bulls right now. But in my opinion, BI has the most upside. But in any case, we can talk about that another time. But as far as the Lakers go, it's over. They won't make the playoffs. I don't want them to make the playoffs because I don't want to see them limp in there and get demolished by 40 by the Suns. Because that's the same thing that happened last year. I don't want to rehash. I want it to be so bad that they have no choice but to make big changes in the offseason. So that's what I'm hoping for.
And the thing is LeBron has been putting in heavy minutes these last couple of weeks here just to keep this team afloat with trying to get into the postseason. And mind you, this is just a playing game. And looking at the Lakers' last 4 games of the year, obviously at Phoenix on Tuesday, at Golden State on Thursday. You got OKC, who is playing okay ball.
Okay. Okay ball?
History of last year's playoff games and all that talk between the Lakers and Suns and Phoenix putting on them. I think Phoenix starts their top players one more time for this to happen here. And then at that point, the Lakers are being asked to win 3 of these 4 games and hoping that the Spurs also lose to get into that playing game.
Yeah.
It's just not going to be easy. And LeBron.
I'm almost certain that he probably won't play in the next game either. And at this point, with only about 7 or 8 games to go, I don't think they're in a position to where they are going to fight hard enough in order to. And guys, we just got to keep playing and this and that. But that's all. That's all for the cameras. Behind closed doors, they've already given up. Guys are planning vacations. It's time to go watch Bronny James play now. It's not. They're not worried about the winning the championship this year because they know it's not feasible. It's not going to happen. So it's a crap season, man. It reminds me so much of the Kobe Bryant, Steve Nash season where Nash got hurt, Dwight Howard. So. But this time there's no Kobe, so go figure, right? So it's bad, man. This is one of the worst Lakers seasons I can remember, and that's including the Lonzo Ball, the D'Angelo Russell, those teams. That's including those teams. This is one of the worst ones I've seen.
Now, if you take away.
When you're the Los Angeles Lakers, the expectation is always to win a championship. I think if you're in LA, there's no way you're going to go out there and be like, hey, guys, guess what? This year we going to be mediocre. You know what I mean? And everybody's going to be like, oh, yeah, oh, that's cool, man. This isn't OKC. Okay? Like, come on, man. Like, that's it. That's all we doing. We need to trade somebody. Like, that's the first thing that's going to come to a Lakers fan. Well, we need to trade something. So, and that's just the mentality of the team as it is the fan base. And, the expectations will always be that high. You add LeBron to that, and now you're talking about superior expectations. Every year, the type of ball they were playing previously, which is they were a top tier defensive team, and that's why they won the championship that year. Even before we got into the bubble, they had been the best team throughout the year, and had solidified that by winning that tournament within the bubble. So that's a great transition, because let's talk about them.
It's a good thing we won all those games the first time this year. But Florida's not been pretty. It's amazing how long it took this team to get healthy.
Yeah.
But the competition is there. They're fighting to stay in that 3 spot. Now, granted, they are basically tied with Dallas for that 3-4 swap.
Yeah.
Denver's just a couple of games behind them. That win against Utah last night was a very hard fought win.
Klay Thompson.
I like that win.
Yeah.
Jordan Poole really showed out last night.
Yeah.
He did. And I know there's a lot of Warrior fans who end soon. In the next 4 years, you will see this group starting to kind of say goodbye to the NBA here.
Yeah, yeah.
But you have Jonathan Kuminga, who has played some meaningful minutes in some meaningful games.
Yeah, he has.
For the team, and has become, I think, just evidence of what the G League can do.
Remember Shaq? Don't get me wrong, I love Shaq, but man, Shaq, it'd be 5 minutes into the game, and Shaq is sweating bullets, and he's at the free throw line just dripping, and I'm like, Shaq, bro, it's only like 5 minutes into the first quarter. What happened? And
he barely played basketball.
Yeah.
You look like he's 9 to 10 pickup games already before you step on the court.
Kevon Looney looked like he dunked himself in a pool before he get on the floor. That's what he looked like. It looks like he literally went for a swim, got up, put his jersey on, and went to the game. I know exactly what you're talking about, man. Just shiny.
To his defense, Kevon Looney has had a great season.
Yeah.
He has done more than what's asked of him on the Warriors side of things. Now, looking for that center, there's rumors that the Warriors are looking to possibly buy out Marc Gasol to bring it in. And I like the fact that Marc Gasol could come in to help the Warriors. Now, for you Warrior fans that are out there, we've never had a good center. Andrew Bogut was our true center when these championship runs happen. And this is what the Warriors are asking from their centers here. They are working. They want a center to, one, play defense, defend the rim, but also because defenders were coming out more to guard that three-point line, which made it easier for him to get baskets.
Yeah.
The DeMarcus Cousins experience was similar. But it's DeMarcus.
Quickly, with those guys, it's just like you guys, when you won the championship, that's what you did. You guys would go on these crazy 20-0 runs in like 2-3 minutes. You know what I mean? Or 2 minutes, because of his capability of doing what you just talked about, which is facilitate on the offensive end, but more importantly, being able to play outside of his size, playing above his size, and rebound and start breaks. So talk to me about Draymond and the kind of injury riddled season he's kind of had this year, and what do you think? What happens when we get in the playoffs with Draymond? Will we see kind of the real Draymond please stand up?
Draymond's been standing back for the first round, but you saw there was no movement.
Yeah.
Draymond knows exactly where the screen needs to be set. He knows exactly where every player needs to be on the court in a half-court offense. He did not see that for that time that he was out.
Yeah.
And now he's back. Important. He's not being asked to score 15 points. I can't even remember the last time Draymond scored 15 points.
Yeah.
But if you get 15 assists and 15 rebounds from him, but you see the offense move with him on the court, that's what you're getting from him. And I know we also got that Mark isn't the answer. They're not looking for him to be the answer. They're just looking for another facilitator to get these guys open.
And I think you guys will have an opportunity to find someone like that. I don't know if Marc Gasol is the answer, and take it from me as a Lakers fan who we're the last team that he played for. He's on the very bitter end of his career, but there are players out there that you can find. And to be honest with you, I think if you're going to keep Draymond, you guys just need to find an athletic guy. That's it. Just find an athletic center. I mean, look at what the Celtics are doing with, I can't remember the gentleman's first name, but the center, Williams. with the dreads. I mean, the man is jumping out of the building. You know, he's grabbing rebounds, he's blocking shots, he's getting up and down the court, and he's doing it at 6'10". That's what you guys need. You just need a 6'10" athlete. What's that?
He just came on.
Yeah.
We weren't talking about him for the first part of the season up until now with a hot team.
Yeah. Yeah.
Should the West be worried about the Suns? Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think if you guys can find that, I think you'll be good.
That's a scary team. We've seen the Suns expose the Warriors with DeAndre Ayton. The Warriors don't have someone that can hang in there.
Yeah.
Now, James Wiseman was supposed to be the guy, but we're not going to see him for the rest of the year. I think the Warriors the Warriors beat them in the guard position if you've got a healthy Curry and a healthy Thompson. But where it matters most is down low.
Yeah.
Every time the Suns and the Warriors got together, Aiden was having monster starts to these games. And they didn't make any changes to the team to be scared of here. But as of right now, it is the Suns. Memphis is still waiting to prove themselves in this West here, but the Warriors have ridden the ship, and now you're just hoping to get Curry back.
Yeah,
next
that's ultimately what this is all about.
Yeah, it's all about if they could get him on the court, ready to go for this run here, because the team still has experience here. You have 4 guys who have been in deep postseason runs and know what it takes to win a championship. I think if we can see Jordan Poole blossom into what he's doing in the regular season and into the postseason, he is going to add such a dynamic to that roster. I think he is going to spark that second unit, and even the first unit as well.
Yeah.
But I think the key factor, and I know there's a lot of love-hate between this guy, Andrew Wiggins.
Oh,
where the fuck have you been since the All-Star break?
Well, I mean, Andrew, I don't know, man. That's a great question, man. I mean, he's done really well, getting himself an All-Star. Becoming an all-star this season and all that, but
that was everyone. He earned that all-star spot there. Don't take anything away from him.
I feel like his success is going to be matchup oriented, based on who you guys play in the playoffs. He's never been a guy to be outside of what he thinks he can do. Everybody in the league has looked at him and said he should be the next great thing. He was a top draft pick, if I believe he was a number 1. Wasn't he a number 1 draft pick coming out that year with Cleveland? So he was always looked at as being that next prototypical 6'7" guy who with guard skills that can put the ball in the hole, play at the free throw line, and he never really got outside of that. So for him playing on your team is excellent. It's the same thing with Andre Iguodala, and I know we're talking about that's old Andre, the one y'all got, but I'm talking about Andre that played for the Denver Nuggets. Okay, Andre was supposed to be the man with the 76ers. He was supposed to be the heir apparent after the whole situation with your boy Allen Iverson. He was the next thing. They had Lou Williams, they had some other good players. He never really filled them shoes. So a lot of guys will have the potential, but they're only going to be as good as they think they are. And I think that's where Andrew is now. So I think for you guys just need to find the right matchups for him whenever you're playing against certain teams where he has a size advantage, and really put some confidence in him to exploit them. Make him shoot, because he's a X factor wild card for your team. And if you could get him going, he's a guy that you could put out there against the Suns that they might not have a good matchup for.
Oh, yeah.
Get you some water, B. Get you some water, bro. You out here in the Sahara Desert, brother. You eating sand? Oh, damn, man. You just go, okay. That was cold.
And outside looking in, they have a matchup with the Spurs, who right now are if you want to talk to play and be in the playoffs, it's a playoff team. The Pelicans, also a playoff team as well. So I think they're going to these games against these teams are going to help them find that rotation that they need here.
Yeah.
To get ready for the postseason here. So, kudos for them for riding this ship here. I really wish they would have done something in that trade deadline. I know they were hoping that Wiseman would get back. It was a risk that they took, and now it's biting them in the butt here.
Yeah.
So
with no job, man. Like they just go out there and compete, man. Like they're one of them teams. They take on the same that same mental toughness and just attention to detail on the defensive end of the ball that we saw from playing hard. And that's what you want to see from a young team. That's what you should see. He's stepping on people, jumping over people, spinning in the air backwards, throwing the ball over the backside of the rim. I mean, come on, man.
Players too.
In a pretty tough West. And after last year, I believe they were the 7th seed, if I'm not mistaken. They've come in this year and really have been like, we're going to build on our success and be a better team next year. And that's what that's
beat down on the Suns for no John Morant the other day.
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
It's impressive.
Yeah.
Say what you want to say. That's the number 1 team in the league. You went in there without your best player and absolutely handled the Suns.
Yeah.
So
yeah. So now that again, another great transition. Just wait for it. It's coming. The West and some of the play-in teams that are why I guess I can't say they're on the bubble. They're just going to end up playing one another in some weird order and then get smacked by the number 1 seed. So we'll talk about that a little bit. We're going to start with the West because that gives me a chance to rant about
You didn't get it all out of your system.
About a team. They are 2 full games because they lost. Spurs won. The Pelicans also won today, I believe. I have to check on that. And they are being very, very pitiful. So, with that being said, let's talk about who is actually important here. So, I'm going to look at the first team I'm start with in the West is my beloved Clippers. I'm lying. I hate the Clippers. I hate the Clippers, man. I hate the Clippers. I can't stand the Clippers. I don't like them. I never liked him. Patrick Beverly, even going back to Blake Griffin, Chris Paul, flopping all over the place. He still does that. Flopping all over the place, and Lob City, which was trash. Sorry, hopefully there are no Clipper fans. There are no Clipper fans. What am I talking about? Of course they're not watching. They don't exist. Anyway, so
yeah, because they're all.
I believe they'll hold down that 8th seed, if not move themselves into that 7th seed. Because as much as I've been hating on them, they've had their 2 best players have not played a majority of the season. Paul George actually played most of the first half or so, and they've still found a way to win games. Reggie Jackson has played well. They've had some other guys who have stepped up, and made great strides and plays for their team. They still got Marcus Morris Jr., Sr., the 3rd, the 5th, one of the twins. You know what I'm talking about. Who has played very well this season. They got they traded off Serge Ibaka. They didn't need him, and they've really, even though I don't want to give it to them for being in the position that they're in, because what it did was it gave them the opportunity for one of their stars to come back so that they can actually compete in the playoffs. And that's why, with the Lakers, this has to go back there, who had all of their team, except for Trevor Ariza and, a couple other guys who weren't important. The first 25 games of the season, 20 to 25 games of the season, we did not capitalize on those wins. We let teams like Oklahoma City beat us a couple of times. We lost some games that we could have won. And the Lakers kept saying the same thing. Oh, we're trying to figure each other out. Oh, we're trying to figure it out. We're trying to figure it out. It's like, man, nobody cares about that. Again, this is LA. You need to win. You can figure it out while you're winning. And so, they wasted those first 20 to 25 games. They were about 500 going into the All-Star break, and then they completely fell apart after that. Because again, like with the Clippers, your star player goes down, you don't quit. You keep playing. Don't quit. They kept winning games, and then from there, now they have an opportunity to compete at a high level now that they have Paul George back. So I think that's a team that you can look at and say, if any of these 3 teams...
And I'll give you my team as far as who comes out of this playing tournament. As of right now, they may not have to play in the playing tournament. The Minnesota Timberwolves.
Okay, all right.
They have turned it on after the All-Star break. Karl Anthony Towns has been an absolute monster to go with this. And D'Angelo Russell is actually paired well with him to games over 500. before the All-Star game, I don't think we were even thinking about the Wolves being part of this conversation. I don't think the Pelicans are. I mean, the Pelicans are
You can say it. They're not a good team. They're not a good team. Just say it. It's okay.
But they're in this playing tournament. I think it's either the Wolves and Clippers, or it's going to be the Jazz and Clippers that get into the Western playoffs here.
Yeah. Yeah, and Utah is outside of the play-in, so I think they'll be okay, because they'll be coming in on a downslide. You know, it's different if you've been fighting all season like the Timberwolves have, and now you feel good about where you are. If you're the Jazz,
back to form, and then Jordan Poole with the go-ahead three in a big-time situation. Let everyone understand that three was hit in a very crucial moment of the game with all that momentum. But now Utah gets the Grizzlies. They're only one game ahead of Minnesota here. I think looking into that is going to be a key factor for Minnesota, because if they can get ahead of Utah and not have to play in that playing game, I think Minnesota can present problems to whoever they face. It may be the Warriors as well.
Yeah.
And the Warriors went into Minnesota and got smashed on. So they got to be a team to look out for here.
Yeah.
So it is interesting in the West. I think the West is not decided yet, unlike the East, who decided to solidify their playoff the playing tournament real quickly here.
Well,
looking at the East.
Let's talk about when we go to the East. We got to start with another team that is very good on paper, much like my Lakers, or at least looked good on paper, and just hasn't lived up to the hype. You know, and I don't even play home game, or couldn't play home games, and could only play certain away games in certain destinations or regions, which has really thrown a wrench into what they originally. Also, you know, they forgot all about Ben Simmons. They did trade him for somebody. Ben Simmons going to the Nets. So I want to hear more about that, B. So B, what do you think? We talked about the Lakers and about how, and I talked about some of the things that were wrong for the Lakers, the fit, the intensity, the sort of waiting out or feeling it out the first portion of the season that the Lakers went through, that where they just lost a bunch of games and were pretty much a 500 team that okay.
Let's start. I mean, look, we can always start with Kyrie Irving.
Yeah.
Pre-season, he wasn't playing.
Right.
This team was supposed to be the best team in the East on paper, and rightfully so. You had James Harden, Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant. You had three legitimate scorers who didn't need much to get a shot up. You didn't. And if it screams a championship to you, you please tell me. LaMarcus Aldridge, who took 1 year off. Seth Curry.
Yeah, not bad. It's not bad.
Goran Dragic, who's now in health and safety protocol. Andre Drummond
doesn't play anymore. Though they've completely, they're not playing those guys very often at all. They're playing Claxton at the center position, who's a very young player and inexperienced. They really lean a lot on Patty Mills for bench points. You know, I think Seth Curry wasn't a bad pickup for them because they lost Joe Harris for the season. So I think having him help fill in some of that gap on the 3-point line. In my opinion, these dudes play small a lot. Okay, they play small a lot. Okay, and the guy who ends up playing center is Kevin Durant. And so I don't know that that's a winning formula. KD always has a mismatch on the offensive end of the ball. Always. I don't know if it makes sense on the defensive end to have him playing that 5 position, which they often do they often do. Their problem this season is going to be the fact that they're playing against very good centers in the East, in Joel Embiid and in Giannis Antetokounmpo. Those two guys are the best centers in the league, and they are both in the East. So I think they're going to have a hard time. I think Drummond's going to help them out a little bit, But Drummond against Embiid and Drummond against Giannis is going to be, he's just going to collect fouls, you know. And I'm not trying to hate on Drummond because he could rebound the ball. He could KD and Kyrie to be otherworldly in order to compensate for the fact that they're in the 10th. Where are they? They're in the 10th seed.
They're in the 10th spot
They're
right now.
so they're gonna have to play 2 games before they even get in the playoffs, and then when they earn the right to be the 8th seed, they're gonna end up playing Miami, who has been. I mean, where did they come from? I mean, you know, they really those team. They play defense. You know,
and now you're gonna ask him to play otherworldly, as you say, in potentially 2 playing games, and then getting into a 7-game series. And when you look at the top of the East here, you have Miami Heat, who is a physical team, but you also have the Celtics, who are absolutely.
We haven't even talked about them.
The entire league of their bitch right about
haven't
now.
Even talked about
They're bullying teams, and that's for another discussion. But the Celtics defense right now is out of this world with what they're doing, locking down your best player to your worst player and making them take very, very bad shots. Yeah. And that's attested, like you said, that defense will pick everything up as these playoffs go on. And team in the East that may get LeBron back to come back to them, because he has this tendency
only if Bronny's there. He already said it.
Cavaliers have shocked the entire NBA year with an absolute nobody of a team.
Yeah.
And they're getting and they're playing in the postseason. You have to give it up to them. That roster, I can't even name
Evan Mobley, Darius Garland. You know, you got some great young talent. You're looking at a team that's been picking up first-round draft picks, top 5 picks for the past 5-6 years, and they're actually making it work for them. So, yeah, kudos to them and for what they've done this season by, being a young team, kind of like what we talked about with Memphis, who doesn't know any better, and is really buying. Does not always happen with young teams. You know, sometimes young players will look the other way, especially young talented players may look the other way and say, this ain't for me, like a Zion Williamson per se, you know, where guys get into the game, but, you know, they don't necessarily believe in the coach that's there because they feel they're a little bit better than the people that are around them. These are teams that are buying into the team concept, that are buying into one another. Atlanta, Charlotte, and Brooklyn. I'll talk a little bit about Atlanta.
Atlanta just came back and ruined.
Player, I think he's like, you know, Steph Curry, little brother type thing going on. You know, he emulates Steph Curry a lot, which is kind of annoying, but whatever. He takes some really bad shots. The guy will take some shots at different points in games that are like, what are you doing? But then he also makes them from time to time. So that's kind of the thing with him being a young player, is that inconsistency. Is he's great. Don't get me wrong. He's great. Is he as good as Luka Doncic? No, he's not. Luka's way better. But because both those guys were in the same draft. But he is a all-star caliber player. He's a very good pick and roll guy, a guy who can make quick decisions with the ball in the paint and get other guys shots. You know, he helps he helps the centers eat, and he also does a good job of distributing. But sometimes he'll really take it upon himself and take some shots that are a little ill-advised. A lot of the, I guess what I'm trying to say, what game was that? That didn't work out well, did it? Yeah. I don't know what that.
I looked at, I saw that ball, and threw that ball up in the air. I'm like, oh, well, this game.
Devin
over.
Booker. He thought Devin Booker fell.
Awesome. But when you getting back to the Hawks here, when you look at this roster here, it just screams our first round exit. I think enough to get out of it going forward. I mean, who is going to scare you outside of Trae Young? Lou Williams ain't Lou Williams of what he used to be.
No, he's not. Clint Capella, Danilo Gallinari. You know, you got the Hoarder. If I'm saying his name right, there you go. The three point assassin. Yep. You've got some talented players. You got Collins. Doing that again. I don't see them as a team who's going to past the first round, which is tough for any of these play-in teams. I think like the next team is Charlotte. You know, I like Charlotte. I think Charlotte is another young up and coming team that can make some noise, but again, I do not see them getting out of the first round. I like the ball kid. I like LaMelo. You know, he's not a normal 6'6", 6'5". He's a thick 6'6", 6'5". You know, he's one of them guys that can take a guard right under the basket and just dunk all over him. And you know, I really and can play up against 3s and 4s sometimes. So they have a really nice, talented team. This Gordon Hayward is somewhere down there. That was a miss, man. That was a hard miss. They should have passed on that dude, man.
Thank you, Charlotte, for taking him. We really do appreciate that.
He's not. He ain't it. He ain't it, man. Kelly Oubre is very consistent, man. I don't like him. He comes off the bench, and sometimes he's one of them guys He's like Andrew Wiggins was a couple of years ago. One night he's gonna give you 7. The next night he's gonna give you 25, and then out of nowhere he'll go for 30. You'll be like, dude, what? Like you go for plus 20 10 times a season. Well, why? And then the rest of the season you go for 5. Brooklyn would be the only team that has a chance.
With that being said, who's your team coming out of the East in the playing game?
So I'm gonna go with Brooklyn. Brooklyn's gonna win. They'll win both games. I think they can definitely beat Atlanta. I have much more to lose. That they're really gonna come in looking to show the league and everyone that they are who they say they are. You know, and that's a big thing with KD, right? We were talking about this before. It's a big thing with KD. I am who I say I am. You know, so they're gonna want to go out there and prove. Exactly.
Kevin.
Wow. Okay.
But no one remembers that Cleveland has Rajon Rondo at their point position, and I'm not saying he's his factor, but the man makes smart decisions with the ball.
Yeah.
And his history speaks to it. So I do see Cleveland being that other team. I agree with Brooklyn getting out. I think next year though, Charlotte is in that top 5.
Okay, interesting. In the top 5.
I think Charlotte makes a big jump. Just like you said, they're just now. Granted, they didn't show much in in their first round match.
Not at all.
If you look at the way Memphis is structuring their team, it's the same way that Charlotte is structuring it.
Right.
You have. I'm not going to compare LaMelo to Ja Morant just yet. I think that's going to be a great point guard future for the NBA with those two at the helm.
Yeah.
But when you look at those teams, they are almost identical. Terry coming from Boston over to Charlotte was the greatest thing Charlotte could ever ask.
Yeah, I love Jason. I love not Jason Terry. Excuse me, different Terry. That's a different Terry. Terry Rozier. I like Terry Rozier. I think he's a great player, man. He's one of those guys that is willing to put their mouth, teeth, and whole head into the teeth of the defense and get to the rim. And he's one of those guys that you can bring off the bench and that's just going to play 100,000% every time he's out there. He'll take some shots sometimes that are questionable, but ultimately next year. So I'm definitely on board with that. I like to see new teams and young teams get into it because the new blood is there. You know, I like to see that new blood kind of circulate in. And you know, I got another great transition for you. Got another one. We're talking about new blood. We're talking about these young players that are coming into the league, the job, things to say about his legacy and some of the stops he's had along the way. So I want to hear more about that from you, B. What comments did KD make? And as a Warriors fan, how did that make you feel?
So KD earlier this week made a comment about OKC needing to retire his jersey, the Warriors needing to retire his jersey, and hopefully one day Brooklyn. There's been wins 2 titles back to back, 2-time NBA Finals MVP. It feels like he was outcasted here in the Bay Area. There's no evidence of that. Warrior fans love that dude from the fucking get-go. The day we found out that we were getting Kevin Durant was one of the greatest days as a Warriors fan. For him to say the comments that he made, that he was coming out, I think, and if everyone has seen has seen Draymond's interview with him,
yeah, that was way.
I have avoided all of this conversation if Kevin Durant had said, this will be my last year at Golden State. I will be. This team is built on a longevity, and it shows with the three core that they have, and the titles that they had brought in. There's already a target on their back for the team that they have, and for Kevin Durant to keep the Warriors in the dark about his contract in his final year, and for that blow up on that sideline saying that he might as well just be gone, I agree with how Draymond handled it.
Yeah.
Because you need to know from the get go that you're going to championships without KD.
Right. Yeah.
If they don't lose Game 7 to Kyrie Irving, we're talking 4 straight championships. There's one other team that's won 4 straight. It's the Boston Celtics. Had the man, and that man is Curry.
Right.
Curry was nice enough to put his legacy to the side and say, this is your team. He didn't embrace that. He didn't want that.
Yeah.
But you're going to leave because you want to be the man. You went to Brooklyn because you went to be the man in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
Kyrie's not the man over there. It's Kevin Durant is the man. He is making that team go. You weren't going to be the man here.
Yeah.
And so with what he has said about his time in Oakland, I think it's just absolute trash.
Yeah, I think, well...
Go ahead.
I think what's funny about this is you got two guys saying the same thing. Kyrie said, the whole thing with LeBron, and, he wanted to be the man, obviously. He went to Boston, tried being the man, and nobody listened to him, right? The whole Boston thing imploded on him. The young guys that were there looked at him and said, hey, man, you missed most of the season. We went to the playoffs on our own. So when the next season came around, he wasn't getting any respect. Guys like Marcus Smart, guys like Tatum and Brown were like, dude, we was in the playoffs without you. Like, I'm not going to listen to nothing you got to say. And in Kyrie's mind, it's like, I'm a champion. I hit a big shot. I want to be the man, even though he was the man. KD's legacy is going to be in this weird spot because he's been on a couple of different teams. And also because, I don't know if we'll truly be able to appreciate how good Kevin Durant is because he playing in the same era as LeBron James. I mean, he's playing in an era with other great players, Kobe Bryant earlier in his career. And he won his 2 championships with a team that had already been established as a championship roster. Him going to the Warriors and winning 2 championships there kind of comes off as him being a paid assassin, or mercenary. They already had won the championship before you got there. And we're one game away, 1 3-pointer. I can appreciate that as a Warriors fan. People embraced him and they came around him and say, hey, man, you're the guy. And he had a choice to make. It was either not be the man, but be, 1A or 1A, 1, whatever you want to call it, second best player on the team, or be the man. And the only, with the caveat being, I'm for sure going to win another championship here. I'm not sure if I'm going to come in on strong, and you may not be able to get another shot at it. What happens if the Celtics end up playing in the finals this year? What happens if Giannis goes back again? And what if the Eastern Conference Finals is the 76ers and the Boston Celtics, or the Milwaukee Bucks and the Boston Celtics? All of a sudden, these younger...
37?
He's old as I don't know what, but he's still leading the league in scoring. He's doing something that Kevin Durant is not doing at a younger age. That's the only reason LeBron is still where he still has himself at the tip of everyone's tongue, and because he's LeBron James, there's a lot of tension around him. But for KD, he's got 3 to 4 more years to do it before he's overshadowed by the wave of youth. And once those new guys start coming in and they start winning championships, like Giannis, they come back ready. That's what the Suns are doing right now. The Suns have all these young guys and young players. I mean, outside of Chris Paul, who's old as dirt, everybody else is young. And once those guys got a taste of being in the finals, it was like, no, they didn't fold. They was like, no, we coming back. I want that. I want that. And that's what they're on a mission.
They're a lot better than they were last year.
Yeah.
I think for Kevin Durant, in this years that he is with Brooklyn, he needs 2 titles. If you want to consider yourself the man, and that trip to Golden State was not a fluke, because as of right now, they look at that trip to Golden State as escape artist, because he needed the titles. He needed the rings to start solidifying himself. But in this age, you are judged. the greatest of all time is up for debate. But when you put the people of the greatest of all time into that topic, what they did to get their own title, how they went about championship level.
Right.
You go to Golden State, you go to three straight finals.
Right.
So you got a taste for it, and you decided to leave that taste to go try this on your own. So you can't blame anyone else but yourself at this point now if you do not win this title.
Right, yeah.
Kyrie is not going to get you that title. I don't think he's the answer. But you're going to have to put the entire city of Brooklyn and this team and organization on your back, as LeBron has done in Cleveland, as Curry has done in Golden State, and take them to that promised land. If they put the team around you, you have to deliver on that.
All right. Yeah.
If you don't, you're the best to solidify everything that he's done in this league here. So,
yeah,
he said about his time in Oakland, I think is absolute fucking trash. I think he should have just was Curry's MVP in the finals because he outplayed Kevin Durant in scoring. But it's Kevin the greatest. I will call him one of the greatest to play this game. But as of right now, he's one of the best to play this game until he goes out and gets his own titles.
Yeah, I agree, man. I agree. Comments from him. He's a sensitive dude, man. If he feels like you're not seeing it the way he sees it in his mind, he's going to argue with it. He's not going to be happy. But ultimately, he knows that time is running out. He's a great player. Don't get me wrong. Further back to hell, the logo, Jerry West, only won one championship. Okay, because there was a Boston Celtics team that was great. There was there were other teams doing things. So shouldn't the logo be Bill Russell? I mean, I don't understand why. What's that about? Anyway,
that'd be something we could leave for debate for everyone else.
He's got 11 championships. I mean, Jerry West is a great player and all, but he only won. I'm a Laker fan. I'm a Laker fan saying this. Jerry West won one championship, and that was it. So I don't know if I would put him as the low end. Come on now.
People say that. Very little people can say they were blocking other people at that size.
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
His legacy is part of the LeBron generation here.
Yeah.
As of right now, LeBron, he's been to the finals too many times.
9 or 10 times.
NBA is in good hands with this young generation, with the players that they have now. I don't think there's a team out there that I would not watch just for a certain player.
Yeah.
Right now.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So.
Well, man.
Yet with their top 6, I think the West is going to have a great final week here. I think the East is pretty much played out here. I think we know where everyone's going to be positioned for it, and I think the West is just going to have a pretty deep week this week when it comes to their games here.
Yeah.
So I appreciate it even more now, just being able to enjoy the
weeks. Find another team that with something with playoff implications, because right now it's not the Lakers. There's no playoff implications going on with the Lakers. Okay, put somebody else on TV so we can watch them play. Because I'm tired of watching this, man.
It's too late now. Who are you gonna draw? I mean, nobody's gonna want to watch the Sacramento Kings on a Thursday night covered by TNT. Nobody want to watch that.
Yeah, man. I guess you're right. People like to watch, train wrecks. But so I guess that's what this is. This is just a very slow motion train wreck. I don't even think AD probably won't play. I really think they should just play the South 2 wins out of it. It
worked for KCP. He got himself a nice fucking contract after his G League
season. Yeah, he did. Yeah, he sure did. He turned out to be a very good player in the long run. I wish we had a player that could play defense and shoot threes. We don't have any. None.
I hate to trade him away for someone who's, painting the back of the backboard instead of the front of the backboard. But
no, backboard? You saw him hit the backboard? I've seen air balls.
Yeah, times. Yeah,
the guy's destroying the backboard. Yeah, you're right. Those layups, man.
Russell Westbrook's shot is like a natural AC. There's no it's just natural all air just right from.
The problem with Russell is when he misses is so bad. You know what I mean? Like he'll make shots, and you look at his reverse layup.
Is it right that I compare my jump shot to Russell Westbrook, and I feel so much better about my outside pickup games compared to professional? When I Russell great season. There's one thing I want the NBA to do this year is put the playoff logo back on the court. Get that shit back on the court.
Aren't they doing the 75 thing? Isn't that the?
They put it on the on the hoop at the bottom. Get rid of that. Put that shit back on the floor. I want to see the finals logo back on the floor here. As a Warrior fan, I didn't think we were ever going to get to the finals, and then we do, and they don't put the logo on there. It's very upsetting.
They found a weird thing to get mad. Okay, all right. I mean, I hadn't really noticed, but I do remember it saying NBA play. Remember NBA playoffs back in the day? You know, the big old NBA playoff on both sides. That's what I want to see in blue. Yeah, I remember.
That's exactly
yeah, I know what you're talking about. See, you going back to the old school. You know.